one time. It's the family bloodline.
Hey, what's good, family? It's Jay Glass, the Movement, back for another episode. Not just any regular episode, but a very special episode. We're doing a Platinum Guest Series once again. As y'all know, we don't do this that often, but we got a real special one today. So we're going to give rounds of applause in a very special family bloodline way for our brother, Danny V. Yeah, clap it up. Clap it up. And it's what makes it so special is this is the first actual Platinum Guest Series podcast interview that we've done actually in person. So I think that's super dope and special. It's a special segment for a special time with a special person. So introducing none other than Danny V, the man, the myth, the legend. Yeah. For sure.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. Tell us about yourself.
Man, well, what you want to know about me?
All right, that's a good question. Fair enough. So where you from, what you do, your musical background, and all of that.
Right. So, like you said, I mean, I go by the name of Danny V. I'm from Watsonville, California. And I guess you could really, categorize me as a, hip hop, a little bit of R&B kind of artist.
Okay.
And really, I feel like my music background just goes back a long way, Started off as a producer, worked my way up to being, an engineer. And then just a couple of years ago, I'd say maybe 3 or 4, I started recording my own songs, and kind of everything just kind of been progressing ever since.
Okay. So what made you want to begin to record your own songs?
So realistically, what started was, like I said, I was an engineer at one point, and I was living in San Jose at the time, and I was engineering all these artists out there. But for me, I just never felt that they really gave it that same amount of effort that I could, I also just felt like a lot of the times I was making the beats as well as, recording them. And in my head, I'm just thinking, man, I could do way better than these guys.
Yeah. So it wasn't so much the caliber, but the message. Were they missing the messages and going on as an artist that like you thought they should have been doing? Or?
Yeah, I just felt like I work with a lot of artists that I seen the potential, but sometimes you got to put in that work on your own. People don't know how to market themselves and put in the work ethic that is required in order to be someone in this industry, in order to move up. And because of that, I just felt discouraged and felt I was wasting my time working with these people that weren't going to put in the same amount of effort that I was going to put in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this, and who are some of the artists that influenced you along the way?
I would say I've been doing, I started making beats shortly after high school. I think I didn't really take it seriously until maybe 20 years old. And then I was producing. So I would say recording wise, I feel like I dropped my first song. It was right in the beginning of 2021. So we're currently about to hit 2025 in 2 months or so. So let's see, what is that, like 4 years?
Yeah.
Just 4 years of consistent, just releasing music and putting together mini projects and having my first album, having my first mini tour in California, and to, performing at universities eventually, and just little festivals in California.
Yeah. So growing up, who are some of the actual artists that you listen to, that you dig into to replicate or kind of sample from to put your Danny V spin on and make it Danny V'd up for the people? So
I would say, like I said, it's a lot of hip hop and R&B influence, but I would say for me, some of the R&B artists that I really, got into once I was older, kind of more in college and was really paying attention to the lyrics and the melodies. I would say I really like Daniel Caesar, Bryson Tiller. There's this artist. She's an R&B artist. Her name's Her.
Yeah.
Who else? Just those modern day, I guess you would consider like the R&B, like the main R&B people right now. And then in terms of hip hop rappers, I was listening to like a lot of Nipsey Hussle, Mac Miller, who else? Like Wiz Khalifa.
All right, I can pick
You
that
know,
up. I can pick that
back
up.
in the day, it was just that mixtape era.
Yeah.
People were downloading mixtapes on the internet, and it wasn't so much as it is now, where you kind of get singles and you get these like one-off songs from
Mhm.
people. It was just I was very much influenced in that era where these artists were putting out bodies of work, mixtapes, but these mixtapes were sounding like albums at the time.
Yeah, so it's kind of that influence of consistency and work, although it's pushed out in the form of a mixtape, but it's got some heat and fire behind it.
Exactly.
Hey, Wiz Khalifa, he dropped that black and yellow joint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jokers lost their mind. They're
Yeah,
like, wait
yeah.
a minute, my man. I'm not a Steelers fan. Why am I singing this song so hard? I'm singing this way too hard.
For real, nah. It was that era, like I said, I think in terms of hip hop, I was very much influenced, in my high school days. But I think now, as I got older, it was definitely more on that R&B and,
Yeah.
these artists that were putting these records that had that like really clean production and mastering. And it was just,
Yeah.
I've always been influenced by artists that, kind of put a lot into their craft and really try to paint a picture in their songs.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. So where do you think we are right now in the form of the artistry when it comes to hip hop, even R&B for that matter? I'll hold my opinion reserved. But where do you think we are as far as the progression of hip hop and R&B, the artistry, the vocalists, the lyricists, so on and so forth? Not so much going too far in depth on the pillars of hip hop, but simply from those couple of aspects: vocalists as well as lyricists, and the people who are honoring the craft. Where do you put us right about now?
I would say, a lot of people are quick to, judge what is currently being made in today's genre. I would say, since I'm very new to this, to hip hop and R&B, I mean, first and foremost, I'm honored to be able to, create music of this genre, So I think my opinion, it kind of holds weight, but it doesn't at the same time. But I think, it's going towards a good direction. The music, I think, is, but in terms of the way that we have to market the music nowadays is maybe not steering towards like how a lot of the classic R&B or hip hop was. You have people trying to chase, these one hit records that you would put like on TikTok, these viral records that maybe don't have as much substance as a record even in like 10 years ago would have. So in that aspect, I would say it's really changing, but I think creatively pushing the boundaries of what someone might consider R&B or hip hop, I think it's going towards an interesting direction for sure. For me, like I really started listening to hip hop through like Jay-Z at the time. He had done this collaborative album with Linkin Park.
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a hip hop head, man.
Yeah. So like seeing that, I think that's kind of when we really started seeing the early ages of, combining genres and pushing it past of what it is now. So I think if we're basing it off that, hip hop and R&B have become, it's hard to like even pinpoint the sound sometimes because it's just mixed in with so many other genres. So to answer your question, really, I think in the aspect of like pushing the boundaries, I think it's doing good. But in the aspect of, creating something well-rounded, not just one song, but a full project, I guess it's a different story. Just the way.
It's a bit of a lost art.
Yeah.
So to have that full portfolio of music to draw back on and go back to and dig out.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, what is your contribution to the art form as it stands right now and moving forward? What do you want to see your music, and how do you see your music influencing where we are?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I think it's my duty to try to bring quality music to what already exists. I think it's easy to make a song and just put it out,
Yeah.
but it's important to really care about the craft and be intentional about what you're saying in your song. Sometimes obviously we want to make those records that are fun, but we also want to make records that are conscious, about what's going on. I'm being a little bit more considerate about what I'm saying in my songs as opposed to when I started, because I think it's easy to, you know, kind of make a certain, like, I don't, to kind of just talking about money and girls and this and that. I think it's easy to talk about that, but talking about something serious that is worth people listening to, I think that's also important.
Absolutely. I can dig that. And I know a lot of artists hate to be boxed inside of a specific, because even I'm a bit contentious with the word and the phrase genre. But it would sound as if your angle would be more, like you said a little bit, the conscious side. I see musicians, and I don't know what this shift was exactly or where it came from. Musicians that are being a bit more intentional about what they're saying and how they're saying it and how they want to be seen. Was that a shift for you? And if it was, when did it happen? Do you see your lyrics being different now than what they were a few years ago,
Oh, yeah.
several years? Yeah. So what was that shift
100%.
and what got you there?
I think so. Initially, when I think about my first few songs, a lot of them were, like I said, they were just about girls, and maybe not painting them in the light that some girls should be painted. It was just more like I was more having more fun with it at the time. I didn't really consider, like, let's say, the repercussions that might come with saying some things. So I think as I started making more and more songs, I kind of just got to a point where I'm like, I feel like I'm making the same songs. So how can I do it, but do it better? And maybe how could I change the subject matter as well? Not always talking about one subject, but maybe switching it up. I think when did it change for me? I would say just seeing all the, let's say, like, political stuff, or just the things that are happening around the world. Not to pinpoint any, like, exact moments, but just to be aware of those things. And I think it gets to a point where it's like you see somewhat chaos happening, not even just overseas, but in our own country. And you kind of get to a point where you feel the need to speak on it. But it's kind of it's a slippery slope, I feel sometimes, because you don't want to, you want to be considerate of both sides of whatever you may be talking about. And I think sometimes when you speak truthfully about it, some people are going to feel some sort of way. And I feel like when you're in the industry where, you kind of not necessarily want to please everyone, but you want to maintain your fan base. You don't want to make it feel like someone's being attacked in some sort of lyrics or something like that. So I think it's just that. I think it's just seeing the state of the world and feeling like you really have, like, I feel moments where I feel the need where I need to speak up on it, but I don't know. It's kind of a hard.
It is. That's kind of why I asked it. Because if you reach into that foundation of what you think is important and why you think your music should be pushed out and what you're influencing, it gets to the heart of the artist as a whole.
100%.
Yeah, and what I do know about artists in general is that artists are conundrums, complicated questions as well as answers that come with it, and everything leads to something else. But I also think that that's one of the things that's beautiful about being an artist and being in the company of other artists, because it's some things don't have to be spoken to be understood. Yeah, essentially. So I'll move away from the heavier areas.
I was like, damn. I thought we were gonna ask some question. No, but that was a good question though. It's true. Like, what makes artists want to speak? I think it's easy to just kind of ignore certain things, but I don't know. I think it's just more so like, if you felt like if you feel some sort of way about it, then just speak on it. And if you don't, then you know you don't have to. I guess no one's forced to say anything in songs. Like it's your free will to speak what you want.
Yeah.
And I don't think a fan base should feel some sort of way if someone doesn't want to speak on it. I guess I understand both sides. Like if you want to speak on it or if you don't, it's up to ultimately it's the artist. And I was reading it in this Rick Rubin book that he recently put out. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was essentially like a producer. He worked a lot with Jay-Z, and he talks a lot about it in like a specific chapter where he says you don't necessarily, as an artist, you don't necessarily have to try to write songs with the intention of like creating a message. Like just create a song and let the art speak for itself. I think sometimes we confine ourselves when we really, really want to speak on a subject or a specific matter. It's really going to constrict the art because we're really trying to make it something that maybe that beat or the melody isn't really meant for.
I can dig that. Sometimes it is better to be subjective than what it is objective.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure. So let's talk about your latest projects, right?
Yeah.
Because I heard two different versions, right? I heard an acoustic version,
Yeah.
and then I saw a video recently
Yeah.
of that joint Fiji. Like super dope. Great job, by the way.
Thank you, man.
But talk about your recent projects and what you got going on and in the future.
Yeah, so right now, as of now, I just worked on a record with Manny Lugo, and it was really one of the first songs that we put together. You know, he had interviewed me. It was the ECAST studio, and
Yeah, buddy.
he just he hit me up, you know, out of the blue, and he's just like, "Yo, man, I'm trying to work," and you know, I had this listening party, and he came through. Showed love, so I was like, man, I gotta show love. I gotta check out the studio. So you know, we cooked up this record Fiji, and it was really dope. It was just super organic, you know, how it came together. I came with an idea, a couple of chord progressions. He laid down a guitar. I laid down a melody. He gave me suggestions on the melody, and it was just an organic, you know, process of putting a song together. So once we did that, I really, as we were talking before this interview, I really like just the structure of how everything went. You know, we did an acoustic and we did a live, and then we put the song together, and then the music video came out, and now we're going to do a beat breakdown. So that's going to be coming out on Thursday, November 7th. Shortly after that, I got another record with this artist out in Los Angeles. His name's Kabwasa. He does a lot of like funk and soul kind of sound.
Okay.
And really right now it's just back-to-back drops on like singles and stuff like that. I think kind of like how I was saying, just the way that people digest music nowadays, it's kind of, people just want those singles, you know. People aren't really willing to sit down and listen to a body of work unless you've built that kind of trust between, you know, the artist and the listener.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have that kind of trust, but I think I already gave the people like a body of work. I've given them 2 bodies of work actually this year. It was this mini like project called Felt That, and then it was this other collaborative project with my boy R Soul from the Underdogs. It was Life Lessons 2. So it was just like I've given people bodies of work little bits through the year. So I'm like, all right, let's just keep dropping singles, and I really just want to build that trust between my audience and me, because I feel like there's so many artists, you know, and music is pretty much oversaturated at this point. Everyone wants to be like an artist or a producer. And I think kind of goes back to what we were talking about, is like, you got to be a little bit intentional with your music, a little bit intentional with your message, you know? And for me, my message has always been showing the people of my town, Watsonville, that it's possible to push past, you know, any expectations that people might have on you coming from a small town. So that's really what drives me to push and keep dropping this music, is to show people like, if I could do it, you guys can do it, you know, because, and I think it could really be translated into any other small town, whether it's Watsonville, Castroville, Greenfield, you know, being from a small town and being seen as the underdog.
Yeah.
I think if you can, shift the way that people might perceive you or perspectives, I think it'll encourage everyone else to make that leap and push past what people expect of you.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah.
So, where can the people find you?
Yeah.
Where can they continue to follow your music and even go back and look at some of your older music? I saw and listened to another song that you had with one of your partners, the Underdog.
Yeah.
It was super dope. I was asking Manny, like, hey, where they shoot this at? Was this in Sacramento or where? Like, no, man, it was in. Oh, okay, all right. That's dope.
Yeah.
It's super dope. I loved it. But where can the people find you so they can plug into you and get locked in and continue to follow your journey?
Yeah, so people can find me on all social media platforms. I have it as That's Danny V, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. That's Danny V.
All right. Well, we're gonna stay tied into you and continue to listen to you and follow you, man. And
appreciate that.
Hopefully, this ain't the last time we get to talk to you. Whenever you got something dropping or you just want to hop on and say hey to the people, we'll be here. We'll be available for you.
Definitely, man.
I would like to welcome you to the Family Bloodline podcast, family.
Appreciate y'all.
And hey, let's make it move.
Yes, sir.
Once again, family, we thank you for hanging out with us. You could have been anywhere else in the world. You could have watched anything you wanted to, but you decided to look up and hang with us, and we greatly appreciate it. As I always say, thank y'all for coming out. God bless and good night.
For the one time, it's the family bloodline.
Like, dang, I don't want him to get upset.